Hello, welcome to this week's episode of The Patch, brought to you by MeUndies and Movement. Thank you, MeUndies and Movement, for sponsoring this episode of The Patch. I'm so sleepy, but I'm also Gus.
I'm Ashley, and not quite as sleepy as Gus.
I'm also sleepy, Ryan, yes.
And
we had quite a morning.
Even sleepier Gus. We had a long day.
You guys were doing a lot of recording for Heroes and Halfwits,
Yeah,
right?
we're filming Heroes and Halfwits all day.
I know, I can hear it through the wall.
We got very animated. This might have been, we might have recorded my favorite episode of Heroes and Halfwits today. I think it's going to be episode 19.
That was a good one.
Those episodes are
Strong
long,
words.
dude. That's a lot of recording you do.
It was like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but it was good. It was good. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it.
We talk about it's gaming related.
19. That is gaming related.
gaming
That's tabletop gaming. It's Dungeons and Dragons. I wear like a chainmail hat, so my hair is always very flat.
Did you do it though? Because it looks nice.
Thank you. But it was short to begin with. I had a haircut recently, so now it's just like, it's not like my crazy hair down to flat hair.
Yeah.
So video games. I hear there may have been 1 or 2 things that came out this week that people were very excited about.
Yeah, there were some games that came out. Well, it's not this week, but it came out end of last week. Is Bioshock the Collection?
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
Which I love the Bioshock franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I started playing it, but I ended up having to play it on console because the PC issues were so bad that
Fuck, really?
they were really, really bad. So it's weird. Bioshock came out in 2008.
I know.
2007, 2008. It came out a long time ago. Like 8
2007. 9 years.
2007. Okay, so it came out 9 years ago. And the collection came out last week. And somehow, a bunch of the things that were issues in the PC version of Bioshock originally are still there.
That's a fucking shame. But I played it on Xbox originally, so I'm not privy to any of those issues. What issues are they?
Oh, it runs things. So there's frame rate stutters. They upgraded like textures, but like not much else apparently. There's mouse acceleration issues. Those were in it originally to start with anyway. And who uses mouse acceleration
That's
anymore?
a really common
uses that.
problem with ports. I don't know why.
Especially like old ports, I guess, but it seems like something that should have been fixed. There's no FOV slider.
That's nonsense. Can you change it in like the INI file or anything?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of but that's the thing is you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to use editors to change game files in order to get
Is
settings
Notepad
that
really an editor?
Nah,
Yes.
I mean, it's
Notepad is the greyhound of editors.
You're
It's
looking
the
at it the
ultimate
wrong
editor.
way. It's not that they have to. It's that they get to dig into the game files and really customize it to the way they need it to be.
Yeah.
but seriously though, like as far as FOV,
That's how you learn.
As far as FOV goes, like sometimes on console ports or on console games, the FOV is horrible, and then when you get to on PC, at least you can.
Does
that.
FOV bother you that much? It's
Yeah.
one of those things. I
Absolutely.
see so many people have issues with it, and it was not something that really came to my attention.
Here's the thing that happened
until people talked about it.
That happened to me that made me realize it recently was I was playing Human Revolution, which is a game that starts with like a 60 FOV, and it's just I felt like I was in a tiny box. And I felt like claustrophobic, actually.
Really?
And so I just cranked it up, and I was like, I feel way better. It's one of those things that like you may not realize, but like you don't like playing a game because of how weird you feel playing it until you crank up the FOV. You're like, holy fuck, this is a better game now.
It is true that I didn't realize what a difference FOV could make until I went through like a slider on the first time. I was like, oh my God. Like like now with a low FOV, I just feel like I'm zoomed in like this with blinders on. And I can't see the amount of world that I need to see.
Well, it's one of those things where if I see a high FOV of that game and then move to a low FOV, then yeah, clearly it's like I can't play it like this.
Do we need to explain what FOV is?
So field of view, which is
I don't know. You're giving me a weird look.
No, why not?
no, it's fair because there's a lot of people who, particularly if you're
Console plebs.
Anyway, moving right along, Adam, you'd get along really well with Michael Pachter. He made some comments about PC gamers recently. It
I'm
was
just
really
joking, by the way. I don't have a problem with console players.
But yeah, a lot of console games don't have FOV sliders, so console players may not know necessarily what it is. So it's field of view, and it allows you to customize more or less how much of the world you can see, almost like the angle that you're seeing the world out of. So it's like a
people
straight
think of
ahead
like
angle,
a fisheye lens kind of thing.
Yeah, or wide angle. And so you're able to, or what it ends up looking like more is like zooming in or zooming out. So you see like this much of the screen, but then if you turn up the FOV slider, you'll see this much of the screen. And there's an example pulled up here that'll show you what it's like with a low FOV versus a high FOV.
So there is like a correlation with FOV to like how far away you are from your TV. So with console games, like they're generally set at a lower FOV because like the optimal distance you sit from your TV is like 8 feet or something like that, and that's why they're set lower. Like it looks fine. Like you play like a game like Halo that has a lower FOV, but because you're sitting at a normal distance away from it, it looks fine. And also has to do with like screen size and things like that. But like some people, if the FOV is too low, like they'll get motion sickness. Like some people that are triggered by motion sickness in like FPS games, it's partially because of FOV.
I've never made that correlation before.
No,
It's
yeah, I've heard that a
interesting.
lot, that it's very motion dependent. But yeah, it's one of those things where if I just play a game from the outset at a certain FOV, I will never really notice.
I thought,
but
the
if I turn
same
it up,
way.
then it's like, oh, it's way better.
The thing that made me really realize that was, I guess I'd been playing like Overwatch a bunch, and then I went to with a higher FOV. Then I went to another first-person shooter with a lower FOV, which was Human Revolution, and like you really, really notice it.
I wonder if it's a little bit of a correlation. So, like people who get motion sick in cars and that sort of thing, you're supposed to be able to, if you look out at the front of the window and just like get your bearings within the world, it's supposed to help a whole bunch. Which is why they tend to sit like in the front or in the middle, so you can look straight ahead and see, like, you get a better picture. So maybe people just aren't getting enough of a view of the world.
So they need to sit in the
like
front seat
stabilize
to
themselves.
play video games.
They need to turn their FOV up.
Yeah, that's one of those things I'm glad I don't have a problem with. I have a real big problem with motion sickness in cars, where I cannot look at my phone for like half a second, or I'll get motion sick.
You've gotten motion sick in my car before.
Yeah, or sit. Oh my god, that was the worst. Yeah, or sit in the back seat or anything like that, or I get really, really motion sick. So I'm glad it doesn't happen in games, but yeah.
Yeah. So that was one of the big issues in Bioshock.
So I saw that they added
stability.
They added support for 21:9 monitors.
I believe that's coming.
Oh, that's coming.
So,
but the original Bioshock on PC was one of those games that was guilty of faking 16:9 support.
didn't they? Yeah, they put they put black bars like over.
Right, they just took a 4:3 image and then cropped it down to make it seem 16:9. Because at the time, that's when we were still making the transition from 4:3 displays to 16:9.
That's crazy
Yeah,
talk,
you
man.
actually lost screen resolution. Overwatch did it when they launched. Actually, Overwatch did it for 21:9 support.
Oh, okay. I was like, no,
you got actually less real estate.
That's crazy.
than you're actually supposed to.
Yeah, so I guess they're gonna patch that in, and 2K has at least responded and said that they're going to be patching. Hold on, they made a list of things they're gonna be patching. Mouse fixes like mouse smoothing, sensitivity, acceleration options, some more speaker mode options, improved FOV slider options, and support for 21:9 displays, and also stability. Stability, thank goodness. But it's just like, it sucks, man. Like, I'm playing the game on Xbox, and part of the reason I'm doing that is because the PC port sucks, and I'm tired of shitty PC ports.
Can I ask you a question about this Bioshock collection?
Yes.
I have not played it yet. So I'm thinking about Bioshock 1 specifically here. I have not played Bioshock 1 in 9 years. I played it when it came out, loved it. Great game. What's different now?
It plays the way I remember it, which is what HD remasters are for.
Okay.
If you ask me,
So it's like a texture up-resing?
Yeah, there's better textures. It's higher resolution. Everything looks really, really nice. When I play it, I'm having that experience that I had the first time I experienced it in 2007, 2008.
I heard that one of the improvements they made was, if you remember back when you played Bioshock, the animations, like the ragdoll animations, were at like 2 frames a second. How it would just be like bloop, 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 and they would fall down. They've changed that, so it's now
That was
smooth.
3 bloops.
Yeah, well, okay. but is that the case?
I mean, it feels
animations
plenty
are-
smooth for me, but I'm also
It hasn't stood out as being bad.
yeah, it hasn't stood out. That said,
probably
it's
good,
one of
'cause-
those kind of. It's also the kind of game where it's like, it's dark. There's a lot of very atmospheric darkness going
sure.
on. You've got lots of dark corners, and that helps to be a little bit forgiving. Because I'm mostly what I'm doing is freaking out about whatever is jumping out at me at any given time. I'm a total wuss
That
about
game
that
is
stuff.
scary. I'm going to play through it with grace because I don't want to play it alone, but I want to play it again.
Yeah, Bioshock's was at the time the scariest game I'd ever played. Mm-hmm. I was freaked out the whole time.
Yep.
So it looks nice. Keeping in mind again that I am playing it on console, I have heard as well that the PC visual upgrades are not as impressive. So, like, once again, in spite of being more powerful, it's getting left out.
Well,
it's getting the shaft when it comes to ports.
I mean,
Yeah.
natively just going to PC, you already were running at a higher resolution. So the up-res that you got going from 360 to Xbox One made it look better between those two consoles just inherently, whereas the PC already had that resolution increase. It just needed the updated the rest of it, which they did add some environmental stuff. I think they added stuff like jellyfish and things like that, and that fly in, just more particles and stuff that makes the environment more realistic looking. But it's not that big of an update.
I do sometimes like to just stand at the window and watch the underwater world go by. That's
Fish AI.
The game's real, like
Yeah.
it was really pretty back then, and those environments were super impressive. It was very much a game of like you just sit there and kind of admire all the stuff that they've crafted, especially when you first go down.
Oh yeah, it's so
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, it's really cool. You must love the whale demo for the Vive.
Oh my god, the whale demo for the Vive is
yeah, the
awesome.
whale encounter.
Did you guys play Bioshock 2 at all when it came out?
Yeah, I played. So
Yeah.
I played 2. I didn't complete 2
didn't
because
I did.
and this is it's something that I openly admit is subjective. Some people like it, some people don't. I hated the story of 2.
Yeah, I was not a fan, like to the point where I never played Minerva's Den even.
Right,
And
which
everyone says Minerva's Den is the best
missing
Bioshock
out.
ever.
Yeah,
Or like
they
the best thing
said-
about Bioshock
Really?
ever.
They
the
say a
best
lot of people say it's the
possible
last,
Bioshock experience
best
you could have.
DLC ever.
Does the collection come with Minerva's Den?
I believe
Yes.
so. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Maybe
So
something I'll check out.
the collection comes with Bioshock 2, Minerva's Den for Bioshock 2, and it also comes with Bioshock Infinite, but Infinite doesn't have a graphical upgrade because they're like, it's already so good. So what we have on the screen here is the original the original version of the game versus the new version of the game. So it's a little bit more clear. It's higher resolution. It looks nice. It's an improvement for sure. Like a lot of the stuff that would annoy you about a game being dated.
Better lighting. There's more. There's like seaweed and there's some fish.
Yeah, it's
wasn't
more
there.
like more detail.
a lot,
you
of, lot
get
of kelp.
Look sharp.
That's what they added.
I mean,
Look, everyone needs kelp in order
They,
to
they got
believe.
polygons to spare, right? And they're like, where are we going to put
Yeah.
them? I don't know. Kelp? All right, let's do it.
Do it.
is that something you would recommend people check out?
The game? Oh, look, first of all, if you haven't played Bioshock, yeah. If you have played Bioshock, yeah. I mean, I've always been
Yeah,
a
I
really
haven't
big
played
fan
it.
of that franchise. But the nice thing about the PC versions, even though all of the stability and the bugs and the port itself being bullshit sucks, if you had the original versions on Steam, you got the collection versions for free.
Oh, that's good.
So they just and I think they were on some of the recent sales. So smart gamers were picking them up super cheap and then getting basically the free HD version.
Interesting.
That
I
doesn't
have-
work.
What?
That doesn't work yet.
Well, that's
But-
what the whole thing started. Was talking about how it's
It's a bad
broken.
PC port.
That it's
Yeah.
a bad PC port.
okay, sorry.
It's a circle of life.
I
It's
think
all
I'm
down.
getting.
I thought he said purchasing it doesn't work. I was confused.
No, you can still buy it. You just can't play it.
Gotcha.
Apparently.
I got something I want to read here. I want to remind everyone this episode of The Patch is brought to you by MeUndies. Whether you're wearing a suit or sweats, you spend almost 24 hours a day in your underwear. If you're me, you spend 24 hours a day in your underwear. But instead of making a
Never
statement
do.
like Superman's tights under his everyday clothes, your underwear is probably boring, and MeUndies is here to change that. Every pair of MeUndies is made from sustainably sourced modal, a fabric that's twice as soft as cotton. Nothing can describe the fit and feel of MeUndies, but once you try them on, you'll understand why they're called the world's most comfortable underwear. If you don't love your first pair of MeUndies, they are free, no questions asked. MeUndies has dozens of styles and limited edition prints to help you make a statement with your underwear, whether anyone can see them or not, just like Superman. Shipping is free in the US and Canada, and you can save up to $8 a pair with the MeUndies subscription plan. Get the subscription or a single pair. Get 20% off your first order when you go to MeUndies.com/thepatch. That's MeUndies.com/thepatch for 20% off your first order. MeUndies.com/thepatch. I need to sign up for a subscription. I always buy them independently, month to month. I'm stupid. I could be saving money.
I like
I'm
it
gonna do
when-
it right after this.
One of
know
my
how many-
favorite things is like walking through the office and then just someone will walk up to me and hand me a pair of underwear and I'm like, thank you. And it's not weird at all because I just got free underwear
This
in
is
the
normal.
kitchen.
Do you know?
So I saw on Twitter here, you can tweet us if you want using hashtag the patch. Who is this? Scarambo just sent us a tweet saying that Blizzard made an announcement that they're going to be transitioning away from the Battle.net name.
Which is,
what?
yeah, there is now it's just going to be called something like Blizzard Technical
Blizzard, yeah.
Services or something like that.
So they said they've
Why?
already started doing that with Blizzard Streaming and Blizzard Voice,
They're
and that
just-
more changes are on the way.
I get it. I can see why they're dropping it because it's an extra brand that doesn't in itself really do anything.
Well, back in the day, it was necessary, right? Like
Right.
way back in the day when Bungie also had like Bungie.net, like you had to have a web portal for like ladders and for all your matchmaking stuff because the technology really wasn't
Is
there.
it not still the back end for all their downloadable content?
But
It-
you don't have to
it
go to
is.
battle.net. You can go to like Blizzard, Why would they have this separate brand that they don't necessarily need?
Like they could just fold it all into the Blizzard brand, and if anything, it amplifies Blizzard as a whole because they don't have to maintain a brand that doesn't in itself have any products.
If it was like, you can come to roosterteeth.com for all our community stuff, but if you want to watch our videos, go to roosterteeth.net or something
So
strange
you mean like Let's
that.
Play?
When you
But it's a different brand.
when you go to like your WoW account, do you go to battle.net?
No, I go to worldofwarcraft.com.
Oh, dude, I totally go to my battle.net account still.
I don't remember the last time I typed in battle.net.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you could, like, every time you've said Battle.net account, you could just be saying Blizzard account, and that's more Blizzard branding.
Yeah.
It unifies them.
I do. I get it.
So
I'm
I
not-
totally get it. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, that's cool. It's strange to see such a storied name being retired. I feel like battle.net's been around forever. I think I probably started using it, like 96?
First
Maybe?
Chris
God,
Metzen
when would I
retires.
have-
Now BattleNet retires.
I mean, I
Yeah.
remember it, I think, most around StarCraft.
I wonder when I created my first Battle.net account. Like, I'm sure it was on an email address that I don't even remember at this point. But
Wanna
it
say
was
so-
high
it
school.
was- well-
I want to say StarCraft.
StarCraft,
2?
yeah. StarCraft Brood War.
So they, you mentioned that Chris Metzen retired. We didn't talk about that last week. Do you see that statue they're going to make for him?
Yeah. it's
Yeah,
pretty
the
great.
statue looks great.
That's super heartwarming to think about, like a company caring about someone so much and having him be such like an intrinsic or not intrinsic. I don't know the word. I'm
Like an
looking for.
integral part
Integral.
to
That's
the,
the one.
Yeah, the early growth of
Yeah.
the company.
pretty amazing.
It looks like it's inspired. I've seen comparisons. I guess there's a very similar statue of Walt Disney where he's holding like Mickey Mouse's hand.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, to be compared and like put on that level of like world building and influence is amazing.
What does the statue look like? I just heard about
Here,
it.
I'll-
It's a picture
pull
of
it up
him
for you.
holding like baby Winston's hand
Okay.
from Overwatch, and he's pointing.
Hoping
There it
was
is,
like a Murloc.
pointing
There we
off
go,
into the
pulling it up.
distance.
Oh, that's
Isn't it
really
cute?
great.
It's really adorable.
Oh, that's super great.
He's commemorated for all time wearing cargo shorts.
With
And,
a chain.
from what I
Like
understand-
a big hardcore chain.
If I recall properly, he's like retiring. He's not moving on to another company. He said he just wants to take time.
Do you know who
with
he's
his
married
family.
to?
I do know who he's married to. Our old friend, Kat.
Kat from Fragdolls. So she was in Fragdolls with me, and
I
they've
met
been married
you and
for.
Kat at the same time.
Was this
it-
pork fries?
No,
tacos?
we met at PAX 04 at the Red Robin.
Right.
Right, like
You're
down the street from the Maidenbower.
You're the reason I thought I knew Bernie.
Right. I was there with Brian. Like I passed him going up and down the escalator. He's like, "Come on, we're gonna go get drinks with the Frag Dolls." Like, I don't know who that is, but I like drinks. So we ended up hanging out at that fucking Red Robin by the Maidenbower.
Red
Hey,
Robin.
Hey,
Yum.
it was delicious. But yeah, good for him. I know he's retiring, focusing on his family. She's either she's very pregnant or has just like had a baby. Like they seem super super happy with his kids from I believe like a former marriage. And I don't know. I love seeing them so super happy. And
Absolutely.
it just makes me go, "Gee," even though I know we're losing an industry legend. I'm just like, but they're happy.
Yeah, he worked at Blizzard for 23 years.
So long. That's like in industry terms, that's like 100 years because it's not like the industry's been around all that long.
Yeah.
He's
It's
a lifer.
almost as old as I am.
Imagine your whole life working in one place.
If it was Blizzard, that'd be pretty awesome.
Like I feel like I've worked here a long time, and I'm coming up on 14 years. Like it's like
Holy
all
shit.
of this and another 9.
Yeah.
That's
what was Chris Metzen's first game that he worked on?
I think it was
Lost Vikings?
It might have been Lost Vikings, or it was one of those other games that you forget about. Metzen.
The only older game I remember is Lost Vikings because I
I
played
keep typing Christ Metzen. I don't know if it's like some kind of like subliminal thing.
Christ, Metzen.
He began, let's see, then Chaos Studios.
Looks like Diablo.
First work was with the game Justice League Task Force, in which he provided artwork and character animation.
Cool, man.
But around the same time, he also contributed to Warcraft, Orcs, and Humans.
Well, his Wikipedia is out of date then.
It's a pretty crazy history of the company.
That was in his Wikipedia.
Is it? 'Cause
I'm
I'm
confused.
looking at his like
I'm looking at his career.
roles. Oh, we're looking at different
Wow,
places.
his Wikipedia doesn't even agree with itself.
Well, you know.
Inconsistent. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
But
I went for the bullet point list. You went for the actual reading.
I scan quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, good for him, and I appreciate what he did so much because I've enjoyed so many of those games. It's awesome. Sad to lose a legend, but in a good way.
There's been some exodus at Blizzard recently. Didn't they have another long-term executive who left to go start another company?
Yep.
God, who was it? I'm trying to look it up.
Dude, that new company has like a bunch of millions of dollars in funding now too. I can't remember the name of it.
I feel, I'm
you're
totally
thinking of
prepared
Rob
for this.
Pardo?
Yes, Rob Pardo.
That
Is
was
exactly what I'm
2000.
thinking
So
of.
yeah, that was 2014, I think.
Oh, didn't someone leave this year though?
Let's see.
Rob Pardo is who I was thinking of. Yeah, he was there for 17 years. I was a former creative director. And yeah. So I mean, yeah, but it's been. These are all people who've been there for like a really long time.
Right.
So and it's not uncommon.
They say a change is as good as a holiday.
What?
I don't know. I think that's what they say when people are like bored or burnt out or anything. They're like, just do something else. It's as good as going on vacation. By the way, that's not true.
Probably not
vacation
true.
is the best.
Yeah.
Vacation's pretty awesome.
But there's another tweet I saw that Carlos, just since we were taking stuff from Twitter, at Sharp Edge 567, Carlos Castanella says that for the Bioshock collection, they also added a new collectible. It's golden reels, which unlock interviews with Ken Levine. Although Ken Levine said very clearly he's not involved with the collection in any way.
Oh, that must be weird. Just them like pulling old archives of footage and.
Is this like that time where
Probably like, like making ofs behind the scenes, like
Sure.
like the documentary kind of content. I can see it.
Is that stuff like not released previously and they just been holding on to it?
I don't know, it might be, but they're, it's like collectibles. It doesn't have to be exclusive. It's just something else to go and find in the game,
Totally.
like the tape recordings. I love the tape recordings. They're awesome.
Yeah.
man, the last thing that game needed though was another collectible to be hidden in dark corners.
Yeah.
You already spent half the game just rooting through every drawer, hoping
I'm
to
a
find
real
all the
sucker
recordables.
for collectibles, dude.
I spend a lot of
Anything
time
with like
running around.
lists that are like you're 80% complete, like you have 8 out of 100.
Here's-
I want to get all of them.
The thing I don't like about that, as a general rule with collectibles, is as soon as you introduce something like that and I feel the need to get it, I am no longer enjoying playing the game as a story. Now I'm just looking for shit in corners.
That
I'm
I
not
guess it sort of
advancing the
depends.
plot. I'm just hang on, let me just flip over this thing and mess with that
It
for a
depends
minute.
on the style of game. If it's like an open game where you can go back to those places and find them later, I'll play through the story first and then go back and find all those things. I do feel like if you collect all of one thing, it should always come with a reward. Like
Yeah.
you should never be collecting for the sake of having things.
Yeah, that's I'm on board with that.
And
Like
you-
if it's collecting a weapon part where I can craft something, collecting something that I can turn into a useful thing, great. But if it's just here's an extra thing and it's tied to an achievement, so then
Right.
I feel like some kind of back end
Yeah.
requirement.
You should also at any time be able to go back to an area and get a collectible if you missed it. No more of this Fallout 3 bullshit where you can blow up Megaton and lose a
Oh,
bobblehead in
dude.
it. And you're
That's pretty crazy. That should just be in the rubble. Like easy solution. It's in the rubble.
Yeah.
Like whatever.
It's sitting on top of the pile.
it flew up and then it fell back down.
I feel like Recore actually handled that pretty well in that for each dungeon, you can look at it on the map and it'll tell you like how many of each types of things there are, like how many chests are there, how many health upgrades are there, and it will tell you how many you already have from in each dungeon. Then you can go back in the dungeon if you want to.
years ago, this is a long time ago in Rooster Teeth history, we were doing a television commercial for an old Call of Duty game. And in that game, there were collectibles. And,
Laptops. Oh, this is like
I don't
this
want to
is
say
before Modern
specifically
Warfare.
which one, but
Okay.
anyway, we had early access to this game like weeks before it came out, so we were making this commercial, and we were like, oh shit, like we could play the single player and we can find all the collectibles. So we went through and we found a whole bunch of them. Then when the final game came out, the collectibles were not in the same place. They had shuffled them all around, and they were all in totally different areas.
That's so weird.
It's like a different build, and everything was just rearranged. Like, wow, that was crazy.
It's like not one of those things you think is in like the crunch of a video game. It's like we gotta relocate all these collectibles. People are gonna find these dead crows or whatever it is.
Yeah, it was nuts to think that that's one of the things that they went back and revisited before finally shipping the game.
Speaking of collectibles, and rewards for collectibles, Destiny: Rise of Iron. I don't know. Have you guys played The Taken King at all?
Yeah, I played the Taking King.
Oh, you
I have not.
So
I fell off Destiny very, very quickly.
I did too, but then I came back and I played The Taken King for a couple of weeks. And the one thing The Taken King did really well was sort of refine a lot of the like there were things to collect, like these little clusters that eventually lead to like a super awesome gun. They brought in like these moments of triumph where you would have these like overarching goals to do, and you get rewards for that. And the Taken King, or not the Taken King, the Rise of Iron came out, and it sort of doubled down on all that. Rise of Iron is a very good expansion. It might be a little bit smaller in scope, but it's a lot of fun.
People
So
have
what
been
about you
super
like?
excited about Rise of Iron. I've seen a lot of like super positive chatter about it. And people seem to be really into it.
It added a storyline,
So it's
well,
like-
a short campaign
It's a
arc,
short campaign. It's
a
I think
strike,
it's
a raid.
like 3 or 4 hours, about 5 missions. But the missions are really good. The new enemies are so there's some dormant technology plague thing called Siva, and it essentially like the Fallen find it, and now you're
It
trying.
sounds like a prescription medication.
It does.
It does.
It's a really weird name for something for
Siva?
Siva. It's probably an
rectal
acronym for
dysfunction.
something. But
In Spanish, see thy's AIDS.
so you can see like that's all those things are fallen infected by Siva, and that's the enemy now. Like it is basically it's not like a different. It's like an enhanced fallen basically.
That looks fucking badass.
The guy
Yes.
that was on fire.
Yeah, the fire
so,
armor.
So those armors, so those are part of the moments of triumph, and the moments of triumph are like an entire year's worth of goals. And this is one of the things they did really well was like if you level up your moments of triumph, you'll get a reward. So like so far, I've gotten the legs and
That's cool too.
I've gotten the legs and the arm from the moments of triumph. I don't think it is. It's like a really good carrot on the stick. So after you're done the 5 missions, you'll be. Oh yeah, I remember that guy. You'll be let out to like 4 or 5 different other missions that like will tell you to go do an exotic quest, go do a strike, go do patrols, go do whatever. So like yesterday, I got done like in around 3 or 4 hours, but I spent the entire rest of the day just like knocking out a bunch of the stuff it had listed for you to do, and I was like collecting collectibles. And when I go home tonight, I'm going to finish collecting collectibles. I'm going to do my exotic quest. Like it's a lot of the stuff I really like. It has a lot of good structure and rewards to that structure, even though there isn't like a ton of content. But there is a really cool new zone, and the new strike's a lot of fun. I obviously haven't done the raid yet or anything like that, but I don't know, man. I'm having a lot of fun with it. But it is, you should all temper your expectations a little bit, because it's like the quality of Taken King, but probably a little bit less content. Like in Taken King, there was 4 strikes, and this there's 1, which obviously is a lot less. But there's still a new zone, which is the same amount of zones that Taken King had.
Remind me though, wasn't it $30?
It's $30 instead of 40. So
I mean, that's still up there though for the reduction in content.
if you're gonna tell me that I can like this I can see myself playing for 2 or 3 weeks, and it's gonna be a solid 2 or 3 weeks, because there's a lot of stuff to like collect and in a sense grind out, and
Yeah.
you know, like I do want to collect all the cool weapons. I want to like max out my characters and things like that. So if you're telling me $30 and I'll get 2 or 3 weeks out of a game, like that's pretty damn good. Like I fucking played that game for 14 hours yesterday, and for $30 I'm already getting a pretty decent value.
You took off work to play it.
Yeah, dude. Like if there's a good game coming out, I'm gonna take off work to play it. Absolutely.
All right, well, okay, so that game is all, at least in its more recent iterations, has always been about the collector crack of trying to get the good guns. What is the good guns that you're trying to get now?
So that's the other thing they've actually taken. This only has 4 new exotics. And
You're really not selling this well,
dude. Like I'm just trying to temper your expectations.
Ryan, that's
I actually don't-
$8
I
per
actually don't-
exotic.
apparently.
It's $4. Or $4. It's 4 exotics, but there may be ones that aren't that haven't been mined yet or are hidden that people don't know about.
They did kind of dole out some other ones previously, like Black Spindle was there, but
Yeah.
it wasn't really available
Right.
until later in.
I see 5 here.
What's
I'm looking at a Kotaku article
so
that
there's
got posted.
Go ahead
the
and
sidearm.
post it. There's
There's
a sidearm.
the palindrome, which is a hand cannon.
Those are
that's
legendaries. That Kotaku article is talking about legendary items that you can buy.
Okay.
So there is.
Oh, you're
yeah.
talking about exotics?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
There's
my
there's a
bad.
whole like. Okay, there's 4 exotic weapons and a couple new exotic armor pieces for each class. They've also added these things called they're already in the game, class artifacts. But in this in this game or in this expansion, they have they alter they alter certain abilities. So, for example, I unlocked one that reduces my or eliminates my sprint cooldown. So, like, I have no cooldown on sprint. I could just go. I can't remember what the other ones are, but there are a few of those for each class that can sort of change the way an ability works.
Question about that: does that mean you can sprint forever, or that? Wait, I'm trying to remember. Previously you could sprint forever, but if you stopped, you had to.
That's the cooldown they're talking
So it
about.
looks like there's a year 3 Yellowhorn, I have no idea how to say it. The
Galahorn.
Kvostov,
Oh yeah, that's something.
Year 3 Thorn,
Which I'm super excited about because I love Thorn.
the Young
fact.
Wolf's
The thing-
Howl exotic sword,
Okay. Yep.
and the Nemesis Star exotic machine gun.
Which I think the sword you get is a.
There's at least
Yeah, it
one.
says everyone should have that. It's obtained through the
There's
main story quest line.
Okay, so there's actually 6 total, but 2 of them are previous exotics, the Galahorn and Thorn. The 4th one you're missing is I don't know what it's called, but it's like the Siva rifle. It's what you get for collecting all the little clusters and following that quest line. So, again, not as many weapons as there was before, but you can also go back and get all the old ones if you missed the Taken King. Like, I missed most of the Taken King, so I'll be able to go back and get whatever, like the Black Spindle or whatever.
I wonder if they're going to bring back elemental primaries from this new raid. Because that was a real big takeaway.
Well, in Taken King, they had one. They had the
They had
Halo
one.
Supercell.
And that was it, right? That was literally, it was now,
couldn't
that is
tell
a
you.
very unique weapon because except for the year 1 stuff, I don't think there were any other primaries, and that one is an exotic primary, that had elemental damage associated with them, which were huge helps when you're doing Nightfalls. Because of the whichever burn happened to be active, you could rotate through the different weapons. So it'd be a giant advantage.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you because I haven't done any
What do you
of
think?
the raids or
Speculate
anything
for
like
me.
that.
That's what we can do here. We can pretend. Let's live in a pretend future.
I know that like you can take the Say Hello Supercell and infuse it and bring it up to whatever the light level you want it to be.
And it's a decent gun. It was an auto rifle with lightning or arc damage.
I love the way it looks. They have also added
It's an
something.
AK-47.
Right. They've also added, it's a lightning AK-47.
Yeah.
Even better.
They added something called ornaments, and the ornaments are basically a reskin for your gun or your weapon. It's all generally for exotic weapons, as far as I've seen. But they did add, like, you can buy from the silver vendor, you can buy these little boxes that have a random piece of loot, and now those boxes now always contain an ornament. So, like, you're sort of more incentivized to spend real money on that stuff, which is fine, I guess.
As long as it's cosmetic, right?
Yeah, you also get those you're guaranteed to get one of those once a week from the exotic or the Heroic Strike playlist. So,
Z Gillette on Twitter says that Yahtzee Croshaw has the best theory on collectibles, that the best reward for collection is new gameplay. Which I can see, like, unlocking something or unlocking a new, like a new weapon, for example, or a new area or a new kind of ability that you can then use to access, like, more game. I actually really like
That's
that
like
idea.
like almost like the Metroidvania style of game. Like I think about Shadow Complex, which we replayed. It's like you find an item, and now you can get access to more of the map.
Like
Yeah.
more energy.
I don't feel like I need to necessarily have more level or more area to explore, but if they give me a new weapon or a new piece of armor, like something to show that I've gotten those amount of collectibles or something like that, that's always satisfactory.
Well-
in Bayonetta, they did it pretty good, where like almost every collectible or every if you beat all the games in the hardest difficulty, like you get something for all of those things. That game's fucking awesome, by the way.
You could argue though with the recordings in Bioshock that is in a form of gameplay because there's the worst part about those is they
that
are
is unlocking
really
story.
interesting. Like you want to hear those.
I don't have a problem
I
with the
will
collectibles in
hunt
Bioshock.
those down anywhere.
I just don't want to spend. I've got X amount of hours in my day to play a game, and I don't want to spend 30% of it just rooting around in the corners.
No,
Although I guess I had it easy. Well, for one, I was playing the game on easy, but I was doing that because I was I was streaming and splitting the concentration. It gets tough, but also people in the chat would be like, "In here, there's a thing," and I'd be like, "You're the real hero." And so for me, it didn't.
You're like crowdsourcing your collectible finding.
Oh, it was great. It didn't
That's a
feel like
great idea.
cheating. I wasn't looking up a guide.
It's not cheating.
I was just talking to chat, and they were doing me a solid, helping me out. So it didn't feel at any point really, I didn't feel like I was grinding or doing the work or just going through drawers one at a time. Like, this is the worst. I was just going from basically one fun part to another.
For the collectibles, for the tape recorders in Bioshock specifically, I always treated those as like, I wasn't going to go back and find every single one of them, but it was like a cool added bonus when I did find one. I was like, oh, awesome, I found this thing, now I can learn a little more story.
Yeah.
Whereas like collectibles that reward something, like I'm incentivized to go back. I wouldn't just do it for an achievement. Like Condemned has like 42 dead birds that you got to find, but it doesn't give you anything when you find them all. You just have 42 dead birds.
What do you
Or
think?
you just did you get an achievement? Anything?
You get an achievement, but it's like,
What do you think about like the way Fallout does it, where each bobblehead gives you something different? So you're like searching for collectibles, but you don't get anything on the aggregate. You get one for each individual item.
I can't remember what they do.
Like they might give you an extra point in your special, or like
that's great. Skill.
That's almost even better. Like if you can, like the only thing better than that would be like once you get all of them, you get something super cool. But like the fact that you're getting rewarded for each and every one is fantastic.
So if you had the opportunity to go back and play Bioshock on like an imperfect PC port or play it on a console and it works, what do you do?
Well, I mean, I guess technically I'm playing my PS4 right now. So
console pleb.
I wouldn't hate to play it on my PS4, but like realistically, I would love to have it on PC. But I want it to work. Like
they're gonna patch it, but
at this point, I play anything I can on PC. Just because I like sitting at my desk, I like the way things look, I like smoother frame rates, I like being able to adjust my FOV even if it's in an INI file.
That's how you learn.
Yeah.
So even like as a PC player, do you just? I feel like I'm at the point where any PC game that comes out, like it's out, and then in a month I'll consider playing it on PC, because so many of them are so bad. I mean, I know there are ones that come out, and there are some developers that do a wonderful, wonderful job. Talking about CG Project Red, but there's so many bad ones lately. There was, let's see, just recently. What was the one that was recently? Oh, there was
Babe thing on the Fighting Bikini Babe game.
I think
what?
I think bikinis are hilarious.
Miles posted something about like a Fighting Bikini Babe game on Steam recently. I think it's like on one of the top lists. It's really funny.
It looks amazing, but I mean, amazingly bad. I get the feeling that we'll be seeing a lot of it on Funhouse. But no, there was Marvel Ultimate Alliance that came out recently. There was a garbage PC port. There was, let me see, I actually wrote down a list of some of the complaints about some of the recent PC ports where it's like, it makes no sense. So for Marvel Ultimate Alliance, which came out earlier this year, you couldn't change your key bindings on if you were using keyboard and mouse. But it also only said that it was partial controller support. So it wouldn't recognize, like sometimes people would have issues with very standard PC controllers, like the Xbox 360 controller, Xbox One controller, that they've got full driver support through Windows. You plug them in, they're just supposed to work. Yeah, some of the keys, like it didn't know the difference between like A and X. And you couldn't go in and change any of that stuff. So that was old, like super bullshit. And then there was like poorly mixed sound, input lag. If you attempted to use a keyboard, which they didn't want you to do anyway, they wanted you to use the partial shitty controller support. It was just, the whole thing was a mess.
Let me say, if you don't want someone to use a control input type, you make it bad, right? It's smart design.
But it makes, like, you weren't supposed to use a keyboard or a controller then. What are you supposed to do?
Figure it out. You're supposed to learn, according to the Ryan Haywood School of Gaming.
I mean, I feel like with PC gaming...
What are you coming after me for? All I said was you edit the INI file.
You said that's how people learn.
It is how you learn to do shit.
I feel
just code your own API. There you go. Fixed it.
Done.
No problem.
With PC gaming, I feel in general that like the only games I'm getting on day one are the big AAA games, like The Witcher 3 or Deus Ex or something like that.
Well, even then, sometimes you're screwed. I mean, think about Arkham Knight last year, which was just
sometimes you're screwed in the console
screwed
too.
forever.
Like sometimes console games aren't good either. Like, it's just a matter of.
It does feel like
I don't pre-order games a lot.
I guess that's the moral, right?
Like, I mean, why do you need to? Like, you don't have to. And also, Steam refunds make it like, so if you do buy a game and you're screwed, it's like you have 2 hours to return it.
Yeah, but you have 2 hours to know that the game is bad. And
you know pretty fast.
I mean, if it's a technical
thing,
issue,
yeah, that's
sure.
true.
But I mean, with console games, if you buy a physical disc or anything, you're fucked. So don't pre-order on console at all. Don't pre-order anywhere.
Basically the approval process or the cert process for consoles are what keeps the games better performing on that, though that doesn't necessarily explain all games that slip through.
Well, isn't there also like a cert process for even being listed on Steam?
I guess, but there's
sort of, but not really.
stuff
I think
on Steam.
I think they basically make sure it'll launch because I know what Gus is talking about. There is something where like Steam tests something to make sure that it will at least work, but that I don't know. Is that early access? Maybe?
I'm trying to see.
But there is something, but it really isn't anything.
So specifically, like with VR stuff right now, they're pushing it so hard that there is a way to bypass the greenlight process altogether, so your game just gets on Steam. I don't know exactly what that process is to bypass it, but it is literally like, if you see posts on the Vive subreddit, they'll be like, "Oh, dude, you don't have to go into Greenlight. Just follow this instructions, and you'll be on Steam." And the next day, they're on Steam. Like, there's just no barrier to entry.
Never mind then.
Yeah, there's fucking no barrier to entry.
Quick backup for you, Adam, is MRG Linsky on Twitter says the Birds in Condemned actually did unlock a bunch of world information and concept art, but it was all hidden in the menus.
Okay,
There you go.
well,
So there, just quick backup.
I don't know, concept art.
Yeah.
I guess if that stuff all collected in like a book for me and it's on like a coffee table, I'll read it. But I don't generally go into my menus just to look at.
You don't launch a game to look at that.
No.
No,
You launch a game to play a game.
the tape recorders are.
Some
way
games have,
better.
like, 3D
world
model
building and stuff.
viewers
Something
and-
that's I like stuff that's relevant to what I'm doing.
Relevant
like, that
in
I'm
the
playing
world,
something.
not about how the world came to be.
Right.
Right.
And
But
I will say
that's
there
for
was
me.
one good thing that Mirror's Edge Catalyst did, which was they had some collectibles, some of the hidden collectibles that didn't show up on the map that would make a noise just when you got close. Just like a little faint chirp. And I kind of like that because I still had to figure out where it was and how to get to it, but I at least knew that I was in the range of one.
That's
Interesting.
good.
And you have to be paying attention. Like there's still a barrier of skill and persistence to getting the collectible, but at least it was, hey, this you should pay attention for a second.
I prefer when a game has an in-game method to find its collectibles.
Right.
Because
Like a map that shows everything.
right at a certain point, like there's no good reason for a player to have to look online at a YouTube
Yeah.
video and see just how to get somewhere to find X collectible. Like,
You don't want someone leaving your game.
right, there
well, you
should be
say
a,
that, but I mean, look at there's an industry around Easter eggs in Call of Duty.
dude. I get it. I don't agree. I'm not saying it's good design though. Like I have to do it with Destiny. Like to find all the clusters. Like I'm not going to be able to find every single one on my own. And eventually I'm gonna have to go online and watch a video and see just how to get somewhere. The one thing Destiny still doesn't fucking have is a goddamn map in the fucking game or like
true.
a mini map. It's insane, dude.
That's because then you'd realize the geography doesn't make any sense.
Right, but
Have the clusters been added to? Do you remember that Ghost Hunter website?
there is a website called
Mm-hmm.
Siva, like Find My Siva or something like that, which sounds dirty.
Hide
But
the Siva.
It tells you exactly which ones you found and which ones you haven't, so you can reference the guide there that has video guides to how to
Mm-hmm.
find each one of them. But that's still annoying to have to watch like a minute and a half video to see not just where it is in the level, but how to get there because you can't fucking figure it out because there's no goddamn map.
Yep. I have been guilty of making those kinds of videos before. I made like
Dude,
Uncharted collectible videos for the
I
Achievement
love
Hunter
those
way
videos,
back in the day.
like because they help you do something the game doesn't.
Right.
But I mean, I'm just saying, like you shouldn't have to do that.
Yes. All right. Want to remind everyone this episode of The Patch is also brought to you by Movement Watches. I'm on the lookout for some hot new gear. Well, Movement Watches is hooking me up, taking care of all my new style needs. Movement has new bands and new watches to totally get you ready. Starting at just $95, that's style that won't leave your wallet hanging. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you have to check out their awesome content on Instagram. With their classy design meets styled minimalism, Movement Watches are perfect for suiting up or going casual. Movement watches have tons of interchangeable band and color schemes that match your summer look perfectly. These watches look like they should be $400 to $500, but Movement keeps them at a perfect price point, starting at just $95. If you're just as impressed with them as I am with this watch right here, then join the Movement today. So where are you taking your Movement watch this summer? Go to mvmtwatches.com/patch. They'll give you 15% off your entire purchase. That's mvmtwatches.com/patch. You can buy a watch just like me. Thank you, Movement Watches, for sponsoring this episode of The Patch. Go there to the URL, get 15% off your purchase, and never be late to an appointment again because you'll have a stylish watch you can wear all the time.
And really, we should all strive to be more like Gus.
Be more like us. That's goals.
So, Ryan, you were saying, you were asking if you felt like it was a cert process that meant that games are more stable on console. I think that that's only half of it. I think also PC is kind of a double-edged sword in that you can get way more powerful hardware and it's just stronger in really every way, but it's not standardized. That's the one thing that consoles have going for them, which is why they're able to get more out of the hardware than it seems like it ought to be able to
That's
do.
not a
You
hard
would
test
think
bed,
that
though.
DirectX kind of standardizes those APIs and all of that.
It really
call.
is. Yeah, I mean, honestly, CPU technology hasn't moved that much in pretty good while.
I mean, but there's
some
also
right. Correct me if I'm wrong here,
No,
but
dude, like we're sort of at a
yeah, it's kind of
flattened out
plateaued.
point, yeah.
So
There's
the
a
really
lot
variances
going
you're
on
talking
with,
about.
There's a lot going on with PC that you don't deal with consoles, though. Like when Batman Telltale came out earlier this year and was an absolute wreck on PC, Telltale blamed drivers. They were like, update your drivers. It's all your drivers' fault. It's not our game's fault. It's drivers. And that's not a thing that console gamers ever have to even think about.
I mean, that's
And that's
part
just
of being
one
a PC gamer, is that you have to be savvy with a certain range of things about keeping your machine up to date.
Like
That
updating
being
your drivers and then re-enabling SLI because it gets fucking disabled every time you update your goddamn drivers.
You have
Like,
to
for
disable it
example-
sometimes for games that don't support it, or
I don't want to play games that don't support it.
All right, man.
It's bullshit. I've got 2 video cards for a reason. It's not so one can sit there idle.
But
Aw, you
that being
grumpy
said,
Gus.
updates are not like rocket science. If you have an NVIDIA card, GeForce Experience typically is running, and it pops up a little notification saying, update your driver.
I mean,
You just do it.
To some extent, like the consoles are made partially for people that just want an experience that they put a disc in or download a game and play it. They don't want to have to deal with any of that bullshit, and that's totally acceptable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. The console thing or the Steam thing, like I do also have to, for PC gaming in general, if it's not a AAA game that's been widely advertised, I am always like trying to find people that cultivate like good game information so that I can like find games that I want to play. And that's why I generally don't get games day one, because like indie games don't really advertise a whole lot unless you watch like some preview on some website, but you don't really see those too often. So I'm always like, I look at Reddit to see what got released and what people think about it and that sort of thing. But like finding games on PC can sometimes be a pain in the ass, especially like just like I'm trying to look at the top games on Twitch and it's always League of Legends and Dota. And it's not like a top indie game or something.
Yeah,
like
I mean, there's a lot of esports going on Twitch though. But the other thing that I kind of wonder about PC is I know that at this point, I feel like a lot of developers just don't put in the work on PC ports.
Yeah. Well, no.
It feels like lazy porting. Like they could do it. There are plenty of games out there that show you can make a game and it works on PC. It is possible, and they just don't put the effort in. And I wonder if they're blaming piracy somehow.
As someone
like,
who
for
used to
not being
do
worth
QA work, and not in the video game industry, but QA work in general is all fairly similar. I mean, it's not hard to write test cases for for a good margin of hardware. So their inability to produce a working game, I mean, you got to think about when they start testing these things, they're testing it on a driver set that is not the current driver set at release. So they should already have a pretty good range of driver tests, because it is sometimes hard to roll back drivers if that's what you're trying to test. But the hardware that's out there in the field, you just take, one of each of generations of GPU hardware and a small range of CPUs. You're there. I mean, it's not that hard to test it.
I
So
think
why
that
are
we should.
PC gamers getting screwed?
I think that we should be a little more conservative in that, because we don't know like everything that goes into it. We don't know like the budgeting process. We don't know how much time these devs have had to make it. Like, there's a lot of factors that like we can like talk all we want about like how easy it would be to make all these test cases for certain machines, but like we really don't know every single problem.
We do know what happens when they release a shitty port.
Absolutely, I'm not saying that they're not shitty. I'm saying like we don't know what caused them to be shitty. If it's like people on the higher up saying like, no, you have one QA tester, you don't need an FOV slider, don't put the budget towards that. Like we don't actually know.
I mean, we're not. It's not like a question of, hey, you guys are awful people because you release this, but it's obviously becoming a poor business decision, and it's becoming all too common for this to be an issue.
As much as the next guy,
Yeah.
but at some point, like
Who are you devil's advocating here? Like, who are you standing up for is what I'm curious about.
I don't want to like blame every development team that gets handed a project and they have to make a PC port out of it and it sucks. Like it's not always just their fault.
Look, I'm not saying it's just the dev team's fault, but someone is making the decision, the conscious decision, to put a game out that doesn't function.
Totally.
Period. I mean, the buck's got to stop with somebody.
And worse is that they're releasing it at the same price point as the fully functional versions, even if they are taking out like what was it they took out of last year with Arkham Knight, aside from the entire game, they also took out stuff that was there on PS4. It was I think like ambient occlusion, and there was a layer of like raindrops that would appear on stuff when it rained, and they just stripped it all out of the PC version, like stuff that like they fully take it out, in addition to not working so bad that you then unrelease the game and then re-release the game and it's still so broken that then you offer full refunds. I mean,
wasn't it who worked in the PC port for that game? Was
let
it
me
Iron
look
Galaxy?
I think they might be.
I remember on a podcast, I remember Dave Lang, who runs Iron Galaxy, talking a whole lot about that whole process and like just how fucked it was, which might be an interesting insight for that game specifically.
Yeah.
Iron Galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that PC port sucked. I don't necessarily think it was any one person's fault. But yeah, there are people that are saying the game has to come out. But if you come to a studio and give them a game and say, hey, make a PC port in 3 months, that's the only option. Like at some point, like
that's not the only option. That's
the
releasing
option is
broken is not an option that I would say is okay.
Right, but
There
I'm
are
saying for the
options
dev
like
team,
delay
that's
it.
their only option. Right.
Delay the PC version. It has happened. We don't like it when it happens. I know Ubisoft did it fairly recently on it. I can't remember what the title was, but the PC version released later. And even though Ubisoft isn't exactly known for their quality PC ports either, I would rather have a delay and have a working game than have it come out the same day and be an utter shit show. Because I want the games to do well, but it's very hard for them to do well if the developers themselves are sabotaging their game.
Right. Part of it's not. I didn't say it's the developers. I think
Okay,
it's like
sorry.
the higher ups.
Usually the
big
publishing
wigs.
executives.
Right. But I mean, at some point, people need to stop fucking buying the games. They need to stop pre-ordering games. Otherwise, they're gonna get a big boom in sales on day one, and then we're gonna get another shitty game.
So
down
do
the
you
line.
do you think that pre-orders are the reason we have so many broken releases these days?
I don't think they're the sole reason. I mean, there's definitely a lot of people to blame, but the fact that people keep paying for, like, fucking No Man's Sky is like a huge example of this. Like, look how much their player base dropped off. Look how much they haven't posted on Twitter in a month or something like that.
Did you see the chart showing their social media activity?
No, but that's.
I'm going to try and find it for broadcast because it's pretty amazing.
But like, how many fucking copies did that game sell? And how many non-refundable copies did that game sell by buying it on like a physical disc for PS4 or something like that? Like that game, like is a perfect example of like people shouldn't pre-order games if they don't know what they're getting into, or shouldn't pre-order them at all, really. But
I mean, pre-order doesn't necessarily. It used to confer a lot of benefits. Nowadays, it's not really.
Well, it used to be that you had to in order to make sure you were getting a physical
Right.
copy on
Right.
day of release. Now with digital, you don't have to worry about that.
Now they're creating false like reasons for you to buy the game. Like you're not going to ever be able to get this armor set if you don't pre-order the game. It's like,
But ultimately,
it's like fuck. I would like all of the armor sets.
somebody has to buy it. I mean, even if you don't pre-order it, it's like, all right, let's all gentlemen's agreement. We're not going to pre-order it. So day one, we just all buy it. I mean, if you want the game, if you watch stuff leading up to the game, if the people that are getting review copies are doing a good enough job to show you what the game is going to be.
I'm not saying every single person is going to not pre-order the game or buy it on day one, but if a larger percentage of people would wait, see reviews, see coverage in the game, and see how it's doing, like you would, like if half those people realized that, like, holy shit, this game sucks, like sales would be worse,
Well, here's the red flag that people need to start looking out for: is if there's not somebody out there that has a review copy of the game that is showing gameplay prior to the release.
That's like a week beforehand. You don't have enough time to really make that.
What do you
There's
mean you don't have
plenty
all
of
the time? You buy it in an instant. It's not like let me start the process of buying it now.
And that's also like a holdover. Like that's the same rule of thumb you can use for even like movies. If a studio knows a movie's going to be bad, there's no reviews before it comes out.
Yeah.
They don't have press screenings. It's like it just comes out.
And that's
sooner or later,
not
somebody has to buy it.
100%
What I'm
for
saying-
games. Like there are games that have review embargoes for day of release, and they're totally fine.
That's different. I'm talking about like
But
if they don't have like not
if
an
they
embargo,
never
it's like
provide
you
them
don't.
ever.
Yeah, you're not provided. And there are
Yeah.
some games that do that where it's like nope.
So that is enough time for like someone like you or I to look at it and be like, well, no one's getting review copies. I shouldn't have pre-ordered them in the first place. I'll go cancel my pre-order. But for like the standard, like it's a teenager, like they don't necessarily watch all the game coverage in the world. They don't necessarily know that there aren't reviews coming out or when the reviews should come out, or have that sort of insight. Like not everyone is going to know to cancel their pre-order, or to like people need to sort of rein that stuff in and not pre-order as much. Otherwise, you're just giving the companies money ahead of like that. The day one sales of that game are like insane.
Yeah. So I sent the No Man's Sky social media chart here. You can see this is their activity on Twitter. Right up, you can see exactly when it launched. And look at that.
What a
What's that?
flat line.
What's that empty spot on the right? Oh yeah, that's since launch.
So frustrating.
Damn.
That's like when a game comes out and it's so broken that it's almost like, I don't want to say the developer abandoned ship because I know they've released ports since then, but they just fully, I don't know, they turtled.
Just not talking to anyone.
Yeah.
That stuff's so shitty.
And
man.
that's the kind of thing that then allows like everyone who's got a problem with it to write the story because they're not saying anything.
Right. Did you see that Shuhei Yoshida came out and kind of threw them under the bus a
Yeah.
little
Oh
bit?
yeah.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
said
really?
something.
What'd he do?
Oh,
That's a little fucked up.
So
So
it was
he
a comment along the lines of like, yeah, I think he may have overpromised some stuff that didn't end up being in the game, but you know, he's just an indie developer.
Right. His comment was
Yeah,
like,
he said like he needs a marketing guy.
With no
this
PR
is
guy.
this is a bad PR problem because he didn't have a PR guy. And at the end of the
Here's
day,
the thing.
he's just an indie dev.
Do
Like,
you think that Sean Murray was on evening talk shows because they were like, let's get that guy in, and Sony wasn't involved? Because there were interviews with Sean Murray where the interview itself said the PR person then cut off this line of discussion and moved us along. That was in relation to, I think, a potential future Xbox One port. There was a PR person there, Sony's PR person.
So even furthermore, I was watching another podcast, a Giant Bomb, and he mentioned that the head of third party for PlayStation or for Sony made a comment about No Man's Sky, saying that like we want this game to be not just an indie game, so we're gonna give it the full power of Sony behind it to make sure it's treated like a first party release. And it's like, you fucking idiots.
Well, I mean, we didn't know. I mean, at the time, that was a good strategy. There was so much hype behind it. I don't blame him for wanting to do that.
Yes, but you can't then come out and say, hey, it's just an indie game because it sucks. Just fuck them. Indie game jerks. Like, come on, man.
I don't think they were that dismissive about it. I think it's maybe a little
Also,
overblown.
can we just say that there are plenty of indie games that come out and are incredible, and I don't feel like saying something is like just a shitty indie game is any sort of excuse for overpromising, under-delivering, or...
It's just an indie game that costs the same as a AAA.
Right,
Yeah.
it sounds a little derogatory when you say it that way.
It does. I mean, though, when you couch it in terms of being an indie game, though, it does seem like they did accomplish a lot.
They
Like,
absolutely
the game wasn't
did.
great.
If it had been
But it
marketed
is
as an indie game, that would have been very different.
I don't
amount of work
know
to do what they did.
If I took that game in a bubble and I didn't know how much it cost, I didn't know how many people made it, or had no expectations for it, and I played it, I still would probably see like the amount of potential the game had and actually how little was there, and probably had very similar feelings. Maybe a little bit less anger, but like I feel like I would feel about the same way.
Adam, you can't always blame the devs. Sometimes there's like a money man that just comes in and says, you got to do it.
You talked about No Man's Sky turtling on Twitter, and now I can't stop thinking of Arathi Basin in World of Warcraft. old PvP battleground.
Yep.
You got a turtle. It was a good strategy.
You got a turtle.
That's a game I really want to get back into.
Wow.
Wow.
I've been
Yeah.
thinking about it. So the thing that turned me off was I was like, before Destiny came out, I'm gonna play WoW. I'm gonna come home. I'm gonna download the expansion. Then someone told me that there are no weapon drops in the new World of Warcraft.
What?
What does that mean?
So you don't go to a dungeon and kill a boss and get a weapon anymore.
I hope that your weapon drops.
Any weapon.
Right.
Period. There are no weapon drops. Every
all
class,
token-based?
No, not even. Every class has a single weapon. So
No, they
listen
didn't do
to
that.
me. As a ret paladin, you have the Ashbringer, and then the Ashbringer can then be upgraded and transformed into like a lightning-y Ashbringer that has some other properties. But every single class in the game has its own class weapon, and there are no other weapons in the game.
What?
They Dragon Age 2'd it?
So
But that was like half the fun of the game. Was
like Frost Death Knights have Frostmourne, and that's the only weapon they have, and everyone fucking has it. So
Is it at least upgradable in a branching fashion? So you can go
yes,
like the lightning
yes.
route, or you can
so
go
you have a
the
choice
fire
of like
route.
how you want to upgrade said weapons, and a lot of people say this is totally fine and they're happy with it. I just, from the outside looking in, hearing that, or like not being able to look forward to a weapon drop, or everyone having the same basic style of weapon.
that was kind of the fun of it. Was like doing a raid, finishing the last boss and being like, I hope my drop
Yes.
drops this week.
Absolutely.
I hope it's a 1.4% chance.
Absolutely.
But I hope it drops. And then you're like, oh, no, not this week. I'll be back next week and I'll try again.
I mean, God, dude, I don't know.
That game has come a long way then since vanilla.
So it's
Do they still have all the armor, though?
yeah, armor still drops. I mean, I'm surprised at that a little bit. The argument now is that you can transmog stuff from older expansions. Like you can take older weapon skins and put them over the new one. But it's like at the same fucking time. It's like, what about new weapon skins? I don't just want 6 versions of Frostmourne, I don't know. I feel like I'm being a little negative without having played it. But at the same time, not having weapon drops is a huge problem for me, and it'll probably lead to me never playing Legion.
Well, I mean, it certainly cuts down on the collectible stuff. Like if you go in for the collectible crack, it's like, well, it does take an element out of the game.
Yeah.
There's always like you get something that's slightly better than a thing that you have, and you're like, this is your new favorite thing, but there's another favorite thing that you want, and that's part of why you go out. Is like, maybe collecting is the wrong term for it because it's very much a progression thing, but it's
there's
sort of
that
like
element to having like all the cool weapons in your bank.
I mean, but does that only start for some of the higher level characters, or do you build from level 1? Which I know you can't start Death Knight at 1, can you?
No, I think when you get to like, I don't know that it's called an artifact weapon.
Yeah.
And I don't know like when weapons drops stop happening. I don't know if in like the beginning of Legion you're just given this artifact weapon, you level it up with you. I do not know. All I know is that I've spoken to my friend David. You know him?
I know Dave. Mm-hmm.
And he was telling me there are no weapon drops in the game. You just have your artifact weapon.
He's been playing a lot of WoW,
He
right?
loves it, dude. And that was like part of the reason I wanted to get into it was he was so like gung-ho about it and telling me how awesome all this different stuff was. But then he said there are no weapon drops. And I was like, I stopped you
I
immediately.
feel really bad because I can't remember. There was a sword I wanted from Molten Core.
Okay. I don't know about...
It was a mage. It was a sword a mage could
Oh, it was
use.
a mage sword.
Oh, you should log back in. You might already have it.
I never got it, and I
don't
wanted
know.
that sword.
You may have it now, though.
Forever.
it might be the only one you have.
Maybe your only option.
And it never dropped for me. I spent so many hours trying to get it, and it never fucking dropped.
That was like my favorite thing in a while. I was walking around and seeing like but the few people with like a Thunder Fury or
You
like
are
a
not a
giant greatsword, like the
snowflake.
giant Ashkandi greatsword of the Brotherhood. Like seeing that stuff and like being able to awe at that stuff and like have that as the thing you're looking forward to doing was a great carrot on the stick.
Falcon4196 on Twitter says each spec has an artifact weapon. Those weapons have slots for relics. The relics act as the weapon drop for the expansion.
So that the relics then turn your
Okay.
Ashbringer into a lightning Ashbringer.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
That's not.
Still an
So
Ashbringer.
instead of like
Right.
it's not necessarily like a branching path like, oh, my
It's just
weapon has
you-
experience and now I
you're
can
just
do
telling
this
what-
or this. It's like collecting stuff and like dropping it in like
He
gems
said
or something.
he said the spec, and I did mean to say spec. I don't mean that like a warlock only has one weapon. It's like demonology and whatever the other specs are. They all have their own artifact weapon that's specific to that spec. So paladins have like the Ashbringer for Ret and something else for Prot and something else for whatever the fucking other classes or specs are in that game. I can't remember.
All right, well, it's about time to wrap this up.
On that disappointing note,
So
Yeah.
thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you guys next week, and I'm gonna find this fucking sword.
And if you're a Rooster Teeth First member, you'll be able to check out our post show. We do a post show exclusively for Rooster Teeth First members on the website every single week.
It happens after
So
this.
it's a little bit more patch for your week. This.
All right, bye.